Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Lend Me Your Ear. This is our episode talking about the question of the use of contraceptives within the marital act. Now, this subject might be a little bit sensitive, so whoever's watching this, I'm going to be talking about some pretty adult things. I'm going to treat you like an adult as I talk through this. I think for myself growing up, my understanding around contraceptives, I just sort of felt the church was out of touch and I didn't grasp the church's teachings on it until while I was in seminary, I was able to learn the church's teachings regarding the use of contraceptives for those who are trying to plan their family life out. And those who might feel a sense of responsibility when they are engaging in the sexual act as husband and wife, that they want to be able to be responsible for bringing about children at a good time that's healthy and holy for their family. And it seems like the use of contraceptives, whether it is barrier methods like condoms or diaphragms or things like that, or the use of chemical contraceptives in pills or those that are shots that people might receive or implants that go into the uterus, whatever they might be, whether they're chemical or barrier methods, either way, that somehow it feels like, well, this should be a responsible thing. Why would the church say no to it? Now, this is super complicated, so I'm doing this without my notes in front of me, but I'm working off my memory that way. You can learn a lot of this stuff by going to natural family planning websites and looking these things up. But here is the overview, okay? We have a sense as Catholics that the fertility, the powerful ability to bring about life with our bodies, that the male body has this capacity to share the gift of his body with his spouse, his wife, the female body, and the two become one, that act, which is not only a mental act of love and not only an emotional act, but even a biological act. When the bride and groom come together and they share in that act of love with one another, his body physically gives her body a gift. And in the reception of that gift, we call the sacrament of marriage, we call it holy matrimony. Holy matrimony. Why do we say that? Holy matrimony. Matrimony, when you break that word down in its original etymology, means the making of a mother. That when a husband chooses his wife and a wife chooses her husband, it's for the sake of them bringing about new life. And so we have this respect for the body. We have this sense of reverence. We need to have this sense of reverence that the man is looking to the natural cycle of her life and seeing what God has given her in her bodily cycle, being able to follow the movement of hormones and all that happens with her body, and recognizing that there's that beautiful period of fertility which needs to be reverenced and respected by him and by her in the sharing of the unity of their love with one another, that they would always have, and this is one of the important keys, openness to life. That there's always an openness to life. One of the things about chemical and barrier method contraceptives is that it automatically is a removal of that openness to life. It says, with the language of the body, that my body is a threat to you, that the possibility of us conceiving together no longer is an act of a fullness of the gift of our love, where the two become one flesh, and the giving of and receiving of that gift of love has the capacity of bringing about new life, but I actually don't want that to happen so badly that I'm willing to cut that off from you. And the use of chemicals in that regard, it says the lie of, I'm going to do everything with my body that normally happens, but I'm going to kill off the opportunity for that to bring about life. So even though it's supposed to be an act of my love for you, something about my fertility is a threat to you, not a blessing, not a gift. And so that chemical portion, that understanding of the use of contraceptives in that way for us, we say to ourselves as Catholics, we cannot do that. And going steps further into all of that, many of those chemical contraceptives actually act as abortifacients in the womb, which means they fully allow the transmission of semen into the uterus area, and they allow for the egg to be fertilized But because of the way that the chemical contraceptives are reacting, they are not allowing that fetus to attach to the wall so that it can actually grow. And so the embryo, the baby that's there, that has been created, is automatically flushed out because of that chemical contraceptive. And we say to ourselves, whoa, that's an abortion. And it's chosen. That's not good. So the primary reason that we say no to those chemical contraceptives is most all of them, when they are used, they reject and they say a lie about the gift of love between husband and wife. And then in that act as well, they are abortifacients and cause damage to that child that has been conceived out of love and does not allow that child to naturally attach to the wall like it should. Now, the barrier methods that are used, condoms, diaphragms, those kinds of actions, or even withdrawal itself, what it is it's basically saying, I'm not willing to share the fullness of this act with you. I'm afraid that if I do share this act with you, it's going to get us pregnant, and I'm not ready for that, and so I'm going to block my fertility. And even though the action itself says, I'm giving myself to you, it's basically lying. I'm giving most of myself to you, not all of myself. And we know as Catholics there are 4 elements that need to be kept in preservation when it comes to the act of love between husband and wife. It needs to be a full gift of their love, meaning nothing held back, no barrier method holding that back, no withdrawal actions. So it needs to be a full act between the couple. It needs to be a free act, meaning it's not forced, it's not a violation, it's not an assault. It's both consenting adults saying, I want this, I choose this, I choose you, I choose to bond myself with you. And so that's why, forced situations, that's why it's so horrible, huh? And it needs to be a faithful gift, meaning that I have protected this act by making sure that we're married together. I have protected this act by saying, I'm going to choose to enter into it because it's an act of my faithfulness to you as my spouse. I desire this with you, and I desire to at least be open to the possibility of transmitting life to you, with you, when we celebrate this as active intercourse together. And it needs to be fruitful, okay? It doesn't mean that, in the fruitfulness, it doesn't mean that we have to be trying to have children every single time we engage in the sexual act, but it does mean that we need to be open to the possibility that if a child is conceived, we're going to be okay with it. Okay, so that's a very complicated beginning portion of that, of understanding. And so it's a responsibility that we have as couples to wait until we enter into marriage to be able to share that sexual act with one another. That's why there's the importance of virginity, both for the man and the woman, in preserving their bodies, so that if a child were to be conceived, that child has the protection of married life to raise them up. And then secondly, once they're entered into the marital act, that they would have that openness to life, that they would be sharing in this act for the good of the spouses and for the good of generating offspring, and have that at least an openness, at a bare minimum, the openness to life, and full, free, faithful, fruitful openness in that love towards one another. Now, there's more parts to all of it, but that's enough for today as it is. If you ever have questions about it, you can always come and talk to me. I found that the church's teaching on all this, as though it's complicated and it might be very challenging, it's really the most beautiful, because I don't know of any other teaching that has as much love and respect for the human body in its teaching about sexuality as the Catholic Church does. I hope that's helpful. I'm praying for you. Please pray for me. Let us pray for all of our married couples out there, all children who are conceived, even when they're conceived in strange and difficult situations. We love all of our kids. May they all have happy and healthy and holy families. And even if for all of those who might have used contraceptives or who might have conceived in those time periods using all of that, God's mercy, his love is so great. So let's be praying for one another in that way too, because God heals everything of our relationship. He wants us with him, and he wants us to have divine life in our life. God bless you.